Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Basketball Metros podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Bit of a crazy week in the NFL, so Daniel's going to be talking a good amount about the NFL this past weekend. Um, got a little fantasy basketball update and a little more of a disappointing fantasy basketball update for Daniel and I. Coming off of last week, some disappointing losses, at least, or a disappointing loss for me, I should say. On the 3-1 on the fantasy basketball year, but we'll go more in depth on that. And then been a while since we tried to stray away from the Lakers as much as we could. Chris Haynes recently reported or released an article, I should say, about kind of like the inside report on the Lakers thus far, and the Nets are finding themselves back in pretty hairy situation again after getting absolutely demolished by the Sacramento Kings 153 to 121. So talk more about the Nets as well, and we'll see where that takes us. But starting it off with the NFL, and Daniel will share his thoughts on that.
So a pretty exciting week of football. Week 10 just passed, and we are about 9 weeks into the NFL playoffs. So we are getting a little excited for that. And just to kind of start it off, Raiders fall to 2-7 after losing to the Colts this past Sunday. A lot to talk about with this team. A lot of disappointment, obviously. For anyone that watched the highlights or watched that game in general, you can kind of tell that the Raiders once again started off slow. Um, it's just a bit of a recurring theme here. And then you just kind of look throughout the game and just didn't look like that. You could just tell as a Raider fan that it was going to be a loss. It just didn't feel that exciting to watch. I mean, the Adams touchdown was cool. It was a close game, but it just didn't feel like the Raiders were truly fighting to win. I don't know. That's just kind of what I got off of it. And we're in a messy situation now. It is definitely not looking good. Obviously, being 2-7. You get that clip of Derek Carr crying post game in his interview. There's a lot of talks about that, but just my initial reaction to it was I just feel bad for that guy. He's been our quarterback for 9 years. He's gone through probably the most a quarterback should go through. I mean, how many coaches has he gone through? Dennis Allen, Jack Del Rio, John Gruden, freaking Josh McDaniels now, and just go back to all those seasons and think about all the different offenses and offensive coordinators he's had to learn. And he's been with us since Oakland. He's gone through a whole relocation phase. He's gone through COVID. He was still our quarterback there, still trying to compete. And I mean, this guy just he's done all of this and still giving his all, still wanting to be a Raider, still embracing what it means to be a Raider. And, as a fan, I can't thank him enough for what he's done. But um, I just can't believe that people can go out there and kind of just make fun of him and it's a guy who wants to win and it's a guy who's given his everything. And now, there's just a disconnect in that locker room. Him and Adams say that um, in their post games that it just feels like there isn't enough effort. Our clown of an owner and our clown of a head coach come out and say everything's okay, which I mean you're 2-7, so it's not. Um, our Mark Davis says Rome isn't built in a day. Well, we made the playoffs last season with a less talented roster, and now we're looking at a top 3 pick. What happened? What was the one thing that happened this offseason? Hired a coach that just wasn't. I mean, I've said it multiple times. He just isn't a good coach, and week after week, we're proving that he's just not the guy. And Mark Davis just keeps believing in his hire, which I don't blame him. You gotta believe in what you did, what you brought into this organization. But at some point, dude, you just gotta realize that you messed up. You just made a really terrible hire, and there's a bunch of reports coming out now that, um, regardless of whatever happens this year, that the Raiders, it was Dov Cleveland, I think, on Twitter. Um, I trust him. He's been a valuable or a trustworthy guy that I've listened to when it comes to NFL reporting, and he reports that Raiders are probably going to keep McDaniels the rest of this year and next year. There have been things kind of linking it to us being cash poor as an organization and just not having the money just to kind of just fire him and pay him off. And I mean, with the whole rebuild or relocation to Vegas, these kind of reports were coming out when we didn't pay Khalil Mack. I remember, Mark Davis taking out loans, Mark Davis doing all this stuff, and he is one of the least richer owners in the league. So I mean, it makes sense, but it just kind of sucks that we're in this position now where we're stuck with a guy literally because we can't financially get rid of him. And I don't know if that's what's keeping him here. I don't know if that's if we weren't gonna if we would have been fired already if we had the money, but it's definitely just an interesting situation because you know they keep saying that, oh, we're just gonna, we're building, and it's like, why are we building? We made the playoffs last season. We shouldn't be building. This team shouldn't be 2-7 right now. So it just baffles me that two people can go up there and say everything's fine when you have two of your star players saying that nothing, like, there's a disconnect within the team. It just shows that the rest of the season is not going to be good, and reports are saying that Carr is probably could be out after the season because of how his contract is structured, and it's gonna be weird seeing Derek Carr get traded away. Like I've said, this guy has given everything to this team, um, this organization multiple times, saying he wants to finish a Raider, which I never thought he'd finish a Raider. I thought um, maybe in a couple years after this contract he would have got rid of him, but um, never got a playoff win for us. But I don't care. This guy's um, been a part of me growing up. I've watched him for since 2014, and it's just gonna be kind of weird just not seeing him lead the Raiders and being that guy. So definitely interesting. If we get a top three pick, obviously Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. I don't know why Mel Kiper has Will Lewis as his second quarterback. That's probably the most stupidest thing I've seen. But um, if I were to draft a quarterback, I want Stroud. That's just kind of my initial thing. But it's just we're in such a weird position to where you just signed a 30-year-old tight end to a contract in Darren Waller. You just signed Devontae Adams, who's not the youngest guy out there to a multi-year contract, and you're gonna kind of get this rookie quarterback into an offense that's not particularly young. We don't have much young talent. I mean, there's no real playmakers that are young besides. I mean, you could say Renfro and Jacobs, but you're gonna have to kind of groom a guy in, an offense that he probably won't have in 3 to 4 years. So it's gonna be really weird. The line's obviously not the youngest. We have a couple guys there, but Colton Miller's a multi-year guy. Our center's a guy who's been there for a couple years, so gonna be interesting. Upcoming years for the Raiders, and then you kind of look at it. You know, there's also a way that Carr stays because there are people saying that, oh, the defense has been really bad, and I personally am one of those guys. I mean, our defense hasn't been good in what feels like forever. I mean, when you have a bottom five defense every year, what do you expect? What are you gonna do? I mean, you've seen guys like Brady and Mahomes, and even last year with Burrow's run, they have defenses that are really good and really capable of getting them on these runs and clutching it out. Like if you think about it, Mahomes and Brady aren't putting up 40 points every playoff game, you know, and um, it just really sucks for Derek. It's a really bad situation. But this Raiders team, I mean, I watched Rich Eisen yesterday say that Jeff Saturday went over our locker room in a week to rally the Colts for a win. McDaniels has had 9 weeks, and this locker room looks terrible. I can. This is just my initial thoughts with the Raiders. I have no idea this is kind of the first time of me being a fan where I just kind of ask myself, like, wow, like what is gonna happen? Because this is like the one time where you look at our future and there's just question marks everywhere. Quarterback might be gone. We might have a new quarterback. Our defense is terrible. Our head coach is terrible. There's no real talent outside of Max Crosby, Adams, Rocky Sin, Sam Webb. I mean, there's no real talent there. And there's no cheap talent either. Because Crosby is going to want a payday. Um, Sam Webb is a rookie. He's going to want a payday soon. And I'm forgetting your other corner. He's on IR, which I can't believe I am. But there's just a lot of guys that, especially on the offensive side, that just aren't going to be cheap. And the drafting these past 5 years have just really screwed us with Gruden and Mayock. But those are just the initial thoughts on the Raiders. I could talk about this, as things come to my head. But man, oh man, it's going to be an interesting couple of years. But let's get into more fun games, more fun franchises. The Vikings and the Bills, baby. That was a game that I think was game of the year. You know, the Vikings started out strong, marched right down the field, get out to an early lead of 7-0. Jefferson starts off hot, and then you kind of see the Bills kind of take it from there. They get to a 27-10 lead, and you're kind of thinking in that third quarter, oh, the Vikings, they're what we thought. They're not that, real threat. And then Dalvin Cook, baby, breaks off a 81-yard run. And that kind of turns the tide for the Bills. I mean, for the Vikings. And then obviously, as everyone knows, Josh Allen throws a pick to Peterson. And the Vikings are down by possession, so it's Kirk Cousin times, baby. And on a 4th and 18, everyone's seen it. That Jefferson one-hander, that's absurd. I mean, do you think that one was better than the Odell catch, or no? Well, yeah, because that's been
I
a
I
it's been a
think
topic.
I think so because that defender was like
I think your
right on
mic's on
top.
mute, or I cannot hear
Can
you.
you not hear me?
There's obviously that obvious 12-man that the Bills had, but they stopped the Vikings after a failed QB sneak by Kirk. I mean, and then from the 1 yard line, I mean, you could already tell that offenses and teams are scared when they get the ball in that one, because it's like, damn, we got to get the ball out. We got to get the, get a couple yards, give us a little bit of breathing room, because it's really scary to just run or pass from that 1 yard line, because if you don't get out, it's a safety or a touchdown if you fumble like Josh Allen did. So that moment was absolutely crazy. I remember I was watching it with Ryan, our friend, and I screamed. I was like, "Wait, what, dude? That is insane!" Um, but obviously they get the touchdown there, and then Josh Allen, being the dog that he is, gets the Bills down to field goal range. We go to overtime. Vikings again. Jefferson coming up big. Kirk Cousins coming up big. Get a field goal, and then Allen throws an interception again. The Peterson was definitely a really fun game to watch. But just the narratives after coming out of that game, I think Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL right now. I think Tyreek Hill is a very close second. Um, and you kind of look at it, and people are kind of getting on Josh Allen a little bit. There's a little bit of concerns there. The interceptions the past couple weeks, he's leading the league in interceptions, I'm pretty sure. He hasn't won an overtime game in his career. So people are kind of starting to, write him off. Not write him off, but give him that criticism that he obviously deserves, because he has been kind of struggling. But I think the biggest thing with me is people are now kind of starting to call him overrated and not even that good, because they got Stephon Diggs, and he was bad before Stephon Diggs, obviously. First couple years in the league weren't looking good. Then you trade for Stephon Diggs, and it's just like this Bills offense absolutely explodes. And I just don't get that narrative. Is how is he bad just because he gets a receiver? I mean, regardless, look at last year. He still played phenomenal in that Chiefs game. He's still shown us that he is a really good quarterback. And obviously your numbers are going to get boosted up when you have a good, receiver. You think Patrick Mahomes would be insane if he, as good as he is, as he started on the Lions? No. If he didn't inherit a system with Kelsey, Reed, and Hill, I don't think Mahomes is as good as he is now. And am I taking anything away from Mahomes? No. He obviously got put in a situation that makes him better, that lets him work, and I mean, he just kind of blessed to be in that situation. I still think he would have found success on a team that didn't have that kind of um, talent. But I mean, you look at Tua as well. He kind of struggled a little bit, but then you get him weapons. You get him a good offensive minded coach, and you know now he's succeeding. Kind of same thing with a lot of guys. I mean, Brady has always had that. Gronk has always had that. Now he has Mike Evans, Godwin. I mean, he's always had weapons, and then it's just kind of more impressive with you know. I guess people just think it's more impressive when you do it without these top guys. Because I mean, even Rodgers this year, he had Adams and he looked amazing, and now he's kind of fallen off a little bit. But you still know that he's a good quarterback because he can still throw for three touchdowns with a guy Christian Watson who's struggled all year. So I think Josh Allen is still a really good quarterback regardless, and I still think he's top 5 in this league. So I just don't know why we just discredit someone just because they have a good receiver. Well, it's a smart thing to get a good receiver for your young quarterback. I don't know where this is coming from. It's just I just think that people just like to hate on the popular players, but um, yeah, those are just my thoughts. I mean, Vikings, I think, are serious contenders now. I think Bills are fine. They just gotta clean it up here. They gotta start winning some division games. They are 0-3 right now in their own division, so things aren't looking good for the good old Bills. I think they're 0-2 actually. Gotta definitely clean it up. But then Monday Night Football, the Washington Commanders against the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a game. That was a game and a half right there. I mean, you look at it, obviously, 8-0 Eagles taking on the Commanders. And in the surprising way, I mean, the Commanders got it done. Heineke is, I think, the most luckiest quarterback ever. But does that take away from his obviously his skill? No. I mean, he had some really good balls to McLaurin 2 nights ago. And I mean, obviously that big no call face mask, that I think is probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Probably the most obvious face mask, but I mean, ref's gonna ref. So, um, Philly drops one. Obviously the big um, roughing the passer thing. I'm kind of on the side with. I think it's not a bad call. It is definitely hard for Brandon Graham to stop momentum there, but just how the NFL is now, I mean, he gave himself up, and yes, he has to be touched to be down. But they're just gonna say that he went lunged at him, and you can't do that. But I think it goes. I think it's fine either way there, whichever one you see. I can argue it wasn't roughing the passer, and I can also argue that it was. But Philly 3 turnovers, I think. Obviously they had 3 the entire year, so I mean they already know. I mean I listened to the Jason Kelsey podcast today, and they just know that they played a bad game. So I'm not really too not high on the Eagles anymore. I mean I still think that they're a really good team, but you look at the standings now. Um, they are now tied with Minnesota for the 1 seed. Um, Dallas drops another game back. They're still in that wild card hunt, but the Giants now take that 5th seed. Um, Seahawks still lead their division. Um, Tampa, despite being really shaky this year, still leads. So the playoffs are going to look pretty interesting this year. I think unless the Packers can go on a run, I think that we kind of have the playoffs solidified. For the NFC at least, I think Eagles, Giants, Cowboys 1 seed. Obviously, there I think one of them. Don't know how it's going to play out, but one of those teams will be the first. You have the Vikings North. the Seahawks or 49ers will take that third seed. I think Seahawks will kind of close it out. You have Bucks in the South, and then I think the Giants or Cowboys are 5 and 6, and then I think the 49ers get that last seventh seed. So I think those are going to be the NFC playoff teams kind of looking in. AFC, that huge Bills loss knocks them all the way down to the wild card. The Chiefs are now number one. Yippee. Chiefs are number one again. Woohoo. But I think AFC is kind of a little bit weird. It's definitely going to come down the last couple of weeks. I mean, Chiefs, Dolphins, Titans, Ravens are your leaders right now. But I mean, that AFC East, I mean, they're all really good teams with positive records. And um, I just think that I think the Jets fall off a little bit. I think it goes one Chiefs. I think the Bills kind of get that AFC East and they lock in that 2 seed. I think the Titans win the South, so they'll be that fourth seed, I think, and then the Ravens will kind of close out the North, and they'll be that third seed right there. And then fifth seed, I kind of have it at the Dolphins. Six, I think the Bengals kind of sneak in there, and then I think that seventh seed will go to the Chargers. Those are just kind of my mid-season playoff predictions. Um, as shaky as the Chargers have looked, I just think that they're too talented not to make it. I don't see the Jets making it just because of their offensive consistency. I don't see the Patriots making it. Same thing. That offense is too inconsistent with Mac Jones, and I think Belichick's a great coach, but it's a little bit harder when you have Mac Jones, a quarterback, besides Tom Brady. Um, you look at the Colts. Even with winning up against the Raiders, I just don't see it. Broncos, obviously, let's ride. Browns, they get Watson back soon, but it's going to be too late. So we'll kind of have to look at them next year. But um, lastly, just want to say my top 5 NFL teams. One, I have the Chiefs. Obviously, with that Eagles loss, you kind of look at it now, and I just still think that the Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, and he is playing as good as ever. So I don't really see anyone better than the Chiefs. Two, I have the Vikings. Obviously, huge win. I think if they can keep those offensive playmakers going, I think that they're a real threat to be the second best team in the league. Three, Eagles. Even though they lost, I still am not confident in them. I still think that they're a really good team. Um, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out 100%. Obviously, sometimes it's good to get that loss. Sometimes it's good to get that loss mid-season just to kind of, get your guys remotivated. Obviously, pretty surprising loss, but I think it's good for their team overall. Fourth best team, I still have to go the Bills. Regardless of that rough loss, I just don't see like I kind of look at it and I think the Bills are better than the Giants. I think they're better than the Cowboys. I think they're better than the Ravens. I think they're better than all these teams. Um, I think they'll figure it out. I think it's just a little rough for Josh Allen right now, but they'll get it together. And then just to round out my top 5, I have the Miami Dolphins. Tua is launching. Their offense looks great. Their run game looks great. Um, just what those weapons, man. McDaniel is doing a great job down there. That offense is rolling, and I'm really excited to see how they close out the season. So those are my top 5. Let's give them those next 3 teams. I'd kind of say are like the Ravens, Cowboys. No, in no particular order. Ravens, Cowboys, and Giants would probably kind of close out there with like the Niners and Titans and those kind of teams rounding it out. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts with the NFL. Really exciting. Kind of end of the season here. Hopefully, I'm really excited. And hopefully we get these cool games because I mean, games like Minnesota and Bills are just kind of what make me excited as a fan. So let's hope that these good games keep popping up. So yeah.
Okay, we are back. We had a little miscommunication in terms of audio, but we're back. So may have looked a little silly past couple of minutes. But going way back, I was saying that yes, I do believe that Justin Jefferson catch was probably, at least for me, the greatest catch I've ever seen. I think it definitely beats the Odell catch, just because of the defender was all over Jefferson and he just made an incredible grab. And definitely wish I got to see that game play out in person, but fortunately couldn't because of traveling reasons. But overall, I watched the highlights of that game. It was a very exciting game. The goal line fumble by the Bills was also insane as well. So kind of sad that I missed out on that game. But overall, moving on to
Oh wow.
the NBA side of things, we'll kick it off with some, I guess, some conspiracy that made some waves around NBA Twitter, or I should say Laker Twitter last night. Good old our friend, our good old pal, Laker GM Rob Pelinka was seen boarding a plane to Indianapolis, which everybody was kind of freaking out about, which I found it pretty funny. And then you have you have Buddy Heald tweeting AO, and personally,
Yep.
I don't think he's talking about the Rob Pelinka thing. People are saying he was talking about a John Morant play, which is probably the more likely scenario, but kind of focusing on the picture of Rob Pelinka, I honestly have zero clue what to make of it. Find it kind of ironic. Don't even know if that's his like for sure flight or not, but kind of interested to see if like anything actually comes out from that. And from a logistic standpoint, I don't think Rob Pelinka would need to travel all the way to Indianapolis to make a trade happen. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Um, Honestly, I have no clue what to make of it. I just kind of find it as a meme picture at this point because I don't think much is going to come out of it. I don't think, but yeah, that was fun to see. Twitter kind of Lakers Twitter flip upside down last night. If you have any thoughts on that,
Yeah, so I saw the picture, obviously. How could you not? Definitely a little weird. It just I feel like Laker fans are reaching. It's just such a reach. They're so dumb bad that they're like, "Oh my god, he's an indie, like trade happening." It's like, dude, this team is bad, accept it. Um, the whole trade, I don't even know. At this point, doesn't even really save the Lakers. That's just kind of where I'm at now. But no, I mean, it's just funny watching Laker Twitter like react to this stuff. It's just the funniest thing. All the overreactions, all like the troll accounts. It's great. But no, I don't think anything too big of it. For all we know, that he can be there, like you know, for not any reason close to doing a trade. But it's funny to see everyone overreact. So
yeah, we're if we would look extremely bad, even worse than now if our front office literally has to travel to another team to make a trade happen, which again is very unlikely. I don't think that's the case, but if that were to happen, that would look really bad for the Laker front office. But kind of on the other side of things, Chris Haynes released a report about a week ago now, talking about the Lakers in a more um, in-depth piece about how they view things moving forward, what's going on the inside, um, in terms of front office and their stance on the trade market and stuff like that. So it was reported by him that with Russell Westbrook um, playing his role, playing better coming off the bench, which I will commend him. He does look better in his bench role. Can't say he's been perfect because he's had a couple games now coming off the bench where he's looked like the old Russ we all know and love. But for the most part, he's played solid. Don't have much to complain about. Um, Definitely still has moments where he's out of control and takes bad shots and turnovers and all that stuff, but it seems very minimized at this point. So can't complain much there. Teams are actually starting to call about Russ, gauging interest. So far, nothing serious in terms of trade talks, which I found pretty interesting. Another issue I have with that is I don't get how the Lakers aren't necessarily looking or listening to these trade offers or interests from other teams. I mean, we spent a whole off season and more trying to trade this guy, and now he comes off the bench, and we're not really interested in moving off of him, which seems very odd to me and doesn't make much sense overall. But adding on to the nonsense, you know, Lakers have always been associated with stars and the star power, and there's been very limited time in this organization's lifetime where they didn't have a star or um, a star caliber player on the team. And, you know, you would think the front office would learn their lesson of why the 3-star model doesn't work. And they just did it less than a little more than a year ago, trying out this 3-star model with Russ, LeBron, AD having no depth pieces, having a mid-level exception player, bunch of minimums, and they expected that to lead to a championship. Newsflash, it didn't. And Lord and behold, that they're interested in, not interested, they quote unquote covet Bradley Beal, which, if you want to talk about bad contracts, this guy just signed a super max for $251 million last offseason. And this is the guy we covet, and this is a guy that we'd be bringing in to another 3-star model where we have fans crying on Twitter about how we need depth pieces. We need to surround LeBron and AD with good quality players while they're here for, I believe, 2 more years when both of their contracts expire. And our front office is still set on the idea of a 3-star model, and it's just so bad. And I really hope it's not another star caliber player that we're bringing in for with LeBron and AD, because it's doesn't take a computer engineer kind of mind to figure out that this stuff does not work, and you're not able to build a competent team, putting bench players together, putting them into roles they've never been in their career, expect them to flourish and perform to expectations when they never do. And you're putting all this pressure on 3 stars to just carry the load, and it just never works, and it's just a very bad malpractice. And I pray to God that Bradley Beal or just another very high quality player is on this team in the next 2 years with LeBron and AD still here. For the time being, it just makes zero sense at all. And with just all the stuff going on, team being awful, currently 3-10, and this report coming out how we want another star to accompany our duo is just absolutely mind-boggling. And I cannot believe that this front office continually believes that this is a good idea. And I pray to God Bradley Beal doesn't ask out, even though I really want him out of Washington because I don't think it makes much sense. He's in his prime and he probably has a couple more good years left. And but at this point, I do not want him to ask out. If he does, don't tell the Wizards you want to go to the Lakers, please. Um, and then LeBron has kind of put some pressure on the front office that he doesn't want to waste a year, which is completely logical. I think everybody who's a Laker fan or just a general NBA fan knows that you can't waste LeBron's years, especially now as he's turning 28 in about a month. 28, geez, 38. I wish it was 28, but he's turning 38 in, I believe, a month now. So obviously not getting any younger. And this team is, I think everyone could tell, is not very viable for at least a long playoff run. So currently 3-10. You have a long way to go. You have some winnable games coming up. We play the Spurs 3 times in I believe like a week or two. You have the Pistons coming up on Friday. So you have the chance to stack up some wins. You have Dennis Schroeder coming back, which personally I'm very high on. I can talk about Patrick Beverly all day, but so far this season, he's shown me that he's the most useless Laker I've ever seen in my life. Um, if he's not hitting threes, he's not really creating at all. He's never been a shot creator. His 3-point shooting has not been good so far. He's had some good defense, a couple key steals in close games, but nothing to write home about. And I know a lot of Laker fans out there are excited for Dennis to get back out on the court, and I think he's going to be very useful for this team. I think he'll take away more of the Pat Bev minutes, which I think will be a good idea moving forward. Thomas Bryant, still not sure how to gauge him in the offseason or in the preseason. He didn't look that great. Same with Damian Jones, and Damian Jones is just completely out of the rotation at this point. So I'm hoping for at least a little bit of production from Thomas Bryant because right now it's just AD and Wendy and Gabriel kind of just battling down low, which Thomas Bryant's not really an inside presence, but it at least alleviates some pressure off AD for some amount of time, which I think will be huge for this team moving forward. And overall, I'm just interested to see how the season pans out. And as I mentioned, they have the ability to stack up some wins and at least make their record look a little more better than 3-10, which still kind of blows me away, even though it shouldn't really surprise me at this point. So, as I mentioned, you have the Pistons Friday, Spurs on Sunday, you have the Spurs next Friday, Spurs Saturday, and you have the Pacers thrown in there. So, get some revenge on the Portland Trailblazers, maybe. But you have the chance to stack up some wins, so I think that's going to be very important. And hopefully LeBron doesn't miss too much more time, especially with currently a couple days off, which is very much needed for this team. So once we get past these winnable games, you're right back to playing very good teams. You're playing the Bucks on the road, Cavs on the road, Raptors on the road, Sixers on the road. So it's going to get very rough after this short little patch of winnable games. But overall, I hope the front office just reinstills some competency and we don't go all in on a third star and just waste more assets on a stupid 3-star model that clearly doesn't work in the NBA, who in the NBA has 3 bona fide stars and currently no one really ever since LeBron and AD, Kawhi and PG, The league has kind of just been like a big two. You got to have a duo, and I think that's a very much more um, viable way of winning in the NBA. It just makes more sense, so you're able to actually round out a roster. So hopefully the Lakers just don't be stupid for however long this is, but we're in for a long, long year, I feel like, and very interested to see how we move in the future. Daniel mentioned it in the Raiders. He's kind of uncertain how their future is going to pan out. I'm interested but scared to see what the future of this team holds because I'm gonna be honest, don't know if AD's the guy moving forward. I don't know if he's a 1A kind of guy. I think he's a very good 1B, the role he's in with LeBron right now. Um, I just don't know if he just hasn't looked like a guy that can lead a team, you know? Against the Brooklyn Nets, he looked great. He looked fantastic. I won't take anything from him, but there's just those games where he had a good stretch where he's getting no touches in the fourth quarter, where he's getting 2 points in the second half. He's taking like no shots. So I don't know how to feel about AD leading the Lakers post LeBron, but again, very interested to see how good old Rob Pelinka builds out this roster post LeBron because it's going to be very interesting and very crucial to see how competitive this team is post LeBron. And I'm again interested and scared to see where this team ends up. But this current moment, I'm just can't believe I'm saying it. I'm excited to see how Dennis Schroeder impacts his team, and I think less Pat Bev minutes is for the better of all Laker fans' mental health at this point. So we'll see how Thomas Bryant and Dennis impact this team moving forward, but it doesn't really change the fact that I am very pessimistic about this team moving forward, which I think is better for me to not be optimistic for this team because I usually get disappointed. So, yeah, that's my very long ramble of just basically hammering home the point that the Lakers suck and we're going to probably be bad for a good amount of time now.
So, just real quick, I mean, my kind of thing is, um, it's not very popular, but I'm kind of a guy who just kind of wants to blow it up. I'm a guy who's used to teams being in that rebuilding phase with, obviously being a Raider fan. I'm totally okay with blowing it up and playing that game of, where we were, when Kobe kind of started getting older, top five and, kind of drafting these guys and getting excited. I personally think it's more fun. I mean, when you go into a season with, when we had, Julius Randle, D'Lo, um, when we got Lonzo. I mean, it was just kind of exciting just to kind of see, what. And I know you're gonna laugh, but it's just exciting to see, what these young guys could kind of be. And obviously, some of them didn't pan out when they were with the Lakers,
I
and
just thought about the stupid Lonzo picture on his back. That's instantly thought
oh,
about.
dude, but I mean, realistically, I just think that Laker fans have been so, blessed with just having, stars for, I mean, let's be honest, their entire franchise history. And, you know, I just don't think, as someone who's coming from, I'm just strictly sports. I mean, for someone who's just kind of used to not having a star and just kind of being okay with the rebuild, with, being a Raider fan is like, I think I'm one of the only Laker fans who are okay with going into like a 5 year rebuild right now. Cause I mean, I just feel like that the team is just too used to winning. And I mean, you just kind of have to look at it. You have to ask yourself as a Laker fan, is this is this even worth doing? Like, is it worth trying to be competitive anymore? I just don't think it is. LeBron is, I think 30. You said 38. AD looks like he's 38. Westbrook is 30. 24, I want to say. I mean,
Sounds right.
he's around there. I mean, and what other young talent do we have? We don't have young talent because in
Max Christie.
wow, because in 3 years, I mean, LeBron's gonna be what 41. AD's gonna be, I think he's 28 right now. He's gonna be like 31, and oh Lord, him at 30 is. I mean, like just think about it. I just think that it's more smart to trade away these guys for draft capital. I mean, and it might not be the flashy move that Laker fans want, but I mean, I think it's the right move. Like, just think about it. Think about it. Like, actually, like Laker fans, use your head. It is not worth it. There are too many good teams. There are too many good established teams in the West for us to even be close to being competitive right now with the G League roster we have. And maybe Rob can pull off some magic with a Russ trade, but I don't trust him. I just think that in the offseason, we kind of blow it up because there's going to be a team that's going to give a package for a LeBron and AD. There's a team out there who will give something for them. Maybe not Westbrook, but we can get something for those two guys, clear up some cap. I mean, stop signing these veteran guys to try to help out LeBron and start getting younger players and start making this roster younger. Because I don't see this team winning a championship within the next 3 years. I don't, that's just, regardless of what we do, I don't see it. So I just think that we have to rebuild and just accept that, hey, we don't have a star right now. It's okay. Because, I mean, we're most likely going to give the Pelicans, Wembanyama at this rate. So, wow, it is. But yeah, that's just kind of with me on the Lakers. I mean, it just doesn't look like we're ready, and I mean that's fine. Just blow it up. I mean, it's like I said, not the flashy move, but sometimes it's the right move. So, but please, I don't want to see Rob try to rebuild a team. That's gonna be really bad.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Do you really trust Rob Pelinka post LeBron to build out
I
a team?
I don't trust Rob in the slightest. I don't trust Jeannie in the slightest. I don't trust the front office at all. But if I can be excited for a top 5 pick every year, I mean, fine. That's a little bit more fun just to watch him blow it. But I mean,
You're back
I
match,
just
bro.
I just think that like it's just you gotta just kind of realize like just you gotta just realize that this is not a team that's gonna win. So you just gotta have to accept the reality, which is blow it up. And is Rob the guy to do it? No, but it's better that we realize it now than 2 years down the line when we trade our last 2 first-round picks for like the decade, and then we were screwed for the next 5 years because we tried to win now and it just really wasn't the answer.
Our drafting department, I believe Jesse Buss is the head of the drafting aspect of the Lakers, which props to him. He's drafted some very quality players and finding diamonds in the rough with THT, even though he's gone now. He definitely showed his potential. Austin Reeves has been another one. Max Christie has shown some flashes as well. So overall, I think the drafting is probably not the issue. It's kind of hard to mess up a top lottery pick nowadays because there's just so much potential, so many great players. But of course, there's always a chance of a bust. But drafting isn't really the main concern. I think it's just kind of building your way back to contention with, facilitating trades with draft picks, um, what players are getting sent out in trades and stuff like that. And that's the part where I get very scared and question Rob Pelinka. And we're going to see it in a couple years from now. So I'm sure it will be a very fun adventure. So looking through Twitter just a little bit, I see Jay Crowder. He's been away from the Phoenix Suns for since the beginning of training camp, wanting a trade out of Phoenix. He posted a cryptic Instagram story of a black screen with the clock emoji, and Mark Stein has said that there have been some credible rumbles that this week the Suns have made progress on finding a trade resolution to the Jay Crowder saga. So that's a little information there. Um, Interested to see where Jay Crowder goes. It was mentioned that the Miami Heat were
Lakers,
thrown in
baby.
there. I wish, but that's very unlikely. Because the Suns probably hate us. Saw the Heat thrown in there, the Grizzlies, the Hawks was also thrown in there. If I were to pick a destination for him to go, I'd probably just say the Hawks because we've seen them in Memphis, we've seen them in Miami. You know, Miami was a great fit. Um, he would kind of replace that PJ Tucker role that the Heat never kind of filled out after PJ left. So that would probably make the most sense. I think the Hawks would be a very fun place for him to play, you know, alongside DeJounte and Trey Young. I think that would open up a lot of shots for him. And they do have DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan whenever he decides to return, but I think having a veteran 3 and D wing for a Hawks team would definitely elevate them, and we'll see if anything comes out of that situation. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, Hawks and Grizzlies definitely are the two most entertaining. I'd say it'd be very fun to watch them go there. I just don't think the Heat would do it. I think more of a younger kind of, just a younger core kind of team would trade for him. Um, I also kind of forgot that he was with the Grizzlies, so that's you know that's something. But I think he definitely would be a really good fit for the Grizzlies team now. Just kind of getting that little bit more depth would definitely help. Um, but can't wait to see who trades for a guy who's just got that dog in him. I'm sorry.
I mean, it would help get Dylan Brooks off the court a little bit more, so that's definitely positive. And then
Flavors.
also, um, Woj just tweeted that Kyrie could rejoin the Brooklyn Nets in the near future. Could rejoin the Nets as soon as Sunday against the Memphis Grizzlies. So, you know, the Nets sent Kyrie Irving on a little expedition to, you know, find God, find his inner being, and not hate some certain group of people. But overall, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of clamor around Kyrie's first game back and stuff like that. So the circus will continue to march forward in Brooklyn, you know, at least for the first couple of games when he returns, but hopefully that kind of subsides after a couple of games when he comes back, which I think most likely happen. But you know, with Kyrie, whenever he comes back, um, it's only a ticking time bomb to see where and when he's gonna have another off the court kind of issue. And yeah, the Nets, despite all the Kyrie shenanigans, they definitely need him. You know, the Nets have picked up some wins recently, but definitely need Kyrie out there on the court. You know, Kevin Durant came out and kind of threw the starting lineup under the bus. Obviously, wasn't a great lineup against Sacramento, but very interesting to just kind of bash the starting lineup like that. And yeah, we'll see how the Nets look moving forward. But interesting, I believe Kyrie's been away for like 7 games now, I want to say, which was initially predicted to be 5 games, but overall will definitely help the Brooklyn Nets out for sure. So, moving on. Somebody under the tweet just commented, "Bro completed his quest." He sure did. So
Wow.
so Kyrie on the rise. Um,
Kyrie, baby.
5 minutes left in the show. We'll hop into some fantasy discussion, fantasy basketball to be specific. You know, I knew I wasn't going to be undefeated for much longer, but didn't expect me to go out like this. Lost to a team that was 0-3. That was the lowest scoring team in the league at the time of our matchup. And, it was just a very, very rough matchup. I I gassed up Shea last show, and he's still making me very happy. Um, had a combined 253 fantasy points in the matchup, and I think you can just tell how this went by just judging by my second leading fantasy score. It was Aaron Gordon with 154 fantasy points, and Giannis only played one game in that week span because of his knee issue. And Anthony Edwards had some subpar games. Because with the Timberwolves, it's always high chance of disappointment. So the players I needed to step up didn't really step up. That's kind of just the moral of the story. The last day of the matchup, Sunday, Josh Giddey dropped a triple double on me, 68 fantasy points. And Anthony Davis had that monster game against the Nets, which was 37 points, 18 rebounds, and that was 75 fantasy points. So that kind of just screwed me over in the long run. And hoping to bounce back to 4-1. So far in a deep hole, playing Jared, who's currently the leading scorer in our league right now at 443. I have 330, 391 at the moment. So far not looking good. Very high possibility of going 3-2, which would make me very, very sad inside. But overall, hoping for good times ahead for this fantasy matchup. And last thing I'll say is hopefully Dylan Brooks can finally make shots on a consistent basis, because bro has been chucking, to say the least. Against the Pelicans the other night, he missed 12 shots, and on Sunday he missed 15. So he's getting shots up there. Hopefully they start falling, which I know they won't, but hopefully they will eventually.
Yeah, so good old Darth Vader took their first loss last week. Pretty upsetting, I'd have to say. I mean, KD dropped 250 fantasy points. Just really kind of got that injury bug later in the week. Wasn't really able to kind of just keep up with Brody. Brogdon got hurt. Christian Wood was hurt throughout the week. Reggie Jackson was out. Dennis Smith was out. So definitely not what you want to see. But something that really grinds my gears is a big reason why I dislike fantasy basketball is player advantages. Just the good old RNG that, hey, you've players from this team and this team, and but then sometimes during your little matchups, oh, this guy just has 10 players tonight, and you're stuck with 3. So truly, truly just a little bit annoying. If I had some players last Sunday night, I think I would have been able to win. But it also didn't help that 2 of my players went under 20 fantasy points. So, you know, just a little silly here and there sometimes. Just really, upsetting. I mean, I'm looking at my schedule. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I really knew that my time was coming soon, but I really hope that I could go into me and Matt's matchup undefeated, which obviously didn't happen. But I think me and Matt could kind of both get into our matchup with a one loss. I'm playing Kobe this week. He has a couple injuries. He has Desmond Bain, Kyrie, Cunningham, and so hopefully we can kind of get back on track. Jaron Jackson came back yesterday. Looked okay. I mean, first game back, I'm not going to be too crazy, but like I said in our fantasy group chat, it was a soul for a soul. Isaiah Stewart is now out for 3 weeks. Um, Brogdon's also out. Dennis Smith Jr.'s out. So hope we could get a little bit healthy here because I really want to drop Dosamu really bad because he sucks. But but yeah, I mean the team's okay. Al Horford, I just gotta say that was a little rough on you in the beginning, but you are a dog. That's all. That's it. Already has 5 rebounds, and we're only 6 minutes into the game. Just dog mentality right there. But no, all seriousness, very excited to see how my team kind of rebounds because we'll be okay. We'll be fine. Just it's basketball, fantasy basketball. You'll take losses here and there.
Yeah. One last thing. I was talking to Ryan. I don't know if you were in the Discord call at the time, but oh yeah, I think you were because it was during football. But I'm kind of expecting Ant to turn that corner. He's kind of been streaky a little bit, and currently right now standing at 40 fantasy points through 2 quarters. He's had 22 points, 5 assists, and has made 6 threes so far. So hey,
Wow.
I'm very happy about that. Still losing by 50 somehow, but hopefully and Shea can kind of up the points a little bit more so I can come back from this early deficit. But yeah, that's our little fantasy basketball check-in right there. Little overtime, so we will wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in, however you tuned in, whether it be from YouTube or University Pulse. Greatly appreciate it. And if you're new, feel free to check us out on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We're being more active on TikTok, so feel free to check us out. All handles are the Basketball Maestros, and go live every Friday from 4 to 5, so feel free to keep checking us out. And yeah, we will see you guys next time.